What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be finally setting up our BombMoto B1 motor to our Flipsky 75-200, and I'm going to be bringing you along. So first things first is we need to figure out how we're going to connect. So if you guys haven't already watched, I have a video how to wire up your Flipsky 75-200 to the BombMoto. So if you guys want, I'll throw a link up in the top right there. But yeah, so everything is set up, we got it wired, and the controller is turned on. And we need to figure out if we're going to download Vesc Tool on our mobile app or if we're going to do it on PC. Now, the 75-200 does come with a USB port, so you can plug it in, plug the USB into your laptop, and you're good to go. So as you can see, I got the screen popped up right here. So whether you're on Android or Apple, go to your web browser. Google is my preferred. Put in Vesc Tool for PC, and then you scroll down here. We got veskproject.com and then Vesc Tool. So we're going to hit that. Now here you can actually get it on a Google Play or App Store if you didn't just go directly to Google Play and App Store. But for PC, we're going to worry about scrolling down a little bit. And we have a couple different options for Vesc Tool. We got platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and free. Now, as far as I know, none of these are any different. I believe there's a little bit more you can do on the PC versions, but these options right here are supposedly more of a donation towards Vesc. So if you guys want to donate towards them and get the Vesc Tool Platinum or whatever, be my guest. It helps these guys out. Obviously, they made a killer setup, system, app, all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and hit the Vesc Tool free and then add to cart. And basically from there, you'll enter your information. They'll send you an email with the download. You'll download it onto your PC. And then from there, it's all basically going to be the same. So right here, we will go to our Vesc Tool. And what we're going to want to do, so here, let me disconnect for you real quick. So first thing you want to do is, once you get the app up, your bike is turned on, you're going to hit connect on your Vesc Bluetooth UART, and right there we are already connected. Now before we go into our motor setup and our setup input, we want to change a few things because the Flipsky comes already programmed with a couple settings that will stop your motor learn. So what we want to do first is go up at the top, scroll over to motor configs. We're going to have two bars, general, and then down here, this will be at general for you guys. So we'll leave the top one at general. We'll go to the second one, and what we're going to do is go to advanced. Now what we want to do is look for maximum input voltage right here. And what you guys want to do is change that. I believe yours is at 72 volts. Go ahead and bump that up to 90 volts if you're running a 72 volt battery. And then hit done or scroll back. And then we'll hit right. And then down at the bottom, you'll see that blue bar that says written. And from there, we're good to go. Next up, we want to change advanced down to temperature. Now, depending on which B1 you have or whatever motor you have, because I mean, this should basically be pretty universal between motors, whether you have a B1 or a QS, something. I know the E-Box Mototec motors, they're a little bit more tricky, so if you guys are working on something like that, feel free to join any of the groups. Like the B1 group has a Vesc chat where you can jump in on the group chat and talk to people. The Mototec group has a couple cool guys. My buddy Morgan down in Australia, I was trying to help him with the E-Box motor, and we were having quite a hard time with it, but he was able to reach out to some Mototec guys and figure it out. So of course you guys can reach out to and get it figured out. But yeah, so anyways, if you have a B1 version 2 or a 2024 model, you have a temperature sensor, versus the first gen B1s, they do not have a temp sensor. So if you have a first gen, you'll leave that to disabled. If you have the 24 model or second gen, we want to change that to KTY83, and then we're going to hit right. Perfect. So we should be good to go to our motor learn. So we'll go ahead back at the top. We'll scroll over to start, and then we want to do setup motors. So we're going to let that process. It's going to pop up saying load default parameters. We want to always hit no. We're going to leave it at generic, hit next, and then it's going to give you some motor options. Now we are running a mid-drive motor, so we want to do large in-runner. If you're doing like a hub motor, you would do large outrunner, stuff like that. So we'll do large in-runner. We want to make sure we are hitting override advanced. And for this motor, this is a 4-pole pair motor, or 8 poles. So we're going to bump that up to 8, and then we'll leave the rest how it is. Hit next, hit yes. And then we got to figure out our battery type, battery cell series, and battery capacity. I am running the 72 volt 30 amp hour from the B1 from BombMoto, and I know that is a 20 series battery, a 30 amp hour, and of course we're at lithium ion. Once we got that set, we'll hit next. Okay, of course if you have a different battery, set it up for your battery. Like if you have a 60 volt, it's either going to be a 16S, 17S, depending on your full charge, and then of course your amp hour. So our next page, we're going to have gear ratio. So we know ours is a 11 tooth front and a 74 tooth rear. So we'll have that set up, 1174. And then we have wheel diameter. So this one's going to be important for your speedometer on the RT data page, which I will show you later on in the video. Now the stock B1 motor, this is going to be 438 millimeters. I am running a Kenda KD1 190-12, which is 476. If you're not sure, grab yourself a tape measure. Make sure the wheel is flat on the ground. Measure from the bottom all the way to the top. For instance, this one is 17 3/4. Go to Google, type in 17 3/4 inches to millimeters, and it'll do the conversion. Then you set it in there. And then of course we have our pole pairs set to 8 already. Now this is going to be a little different. We're used to the far drivers where you hold the throttle wide open while it does its thing. This thing, you just press a button and let it do its magic. So we'll go ahead, hit run detection, press OK, and then let the motor do its thing. All right, getting close to done. Perfect. So what I like to do is take a screenshot of the detection results. So go ahead and take a screenshot. There we go. All right. Just so you can go back to it. So what we want to see down at the bottom is temp comp. We want true, so that way we know it's reading the temp sensor, and then the sensors to hall sensor. So that's perfect. If that doesn't end up popping up, I'll show you how to fix that a little bit later. So from here, we'll press OK. And then at this point, your guys's will probably be, it'll probably look like this. So we want to make sure the motor sprocket's spinning the correct way. So we'll hit forward. We notice the sprocket is spinning backwards, so we'll go ahead and press inverted, hit forward again. We see our motor sprocket is spinning in the correct direction. We're going to hit finish, and we are finally set up with our motor detection. Next up, we're going to go to setup input on the right here. This Vesc, wait for it to load, and hit next. Now this part we are going to do ADC input. You can see it looks like a throttle. And this is this whole video is kind of more specific to e-bikes, electric dirt bikes with the throttle, stuff like that. So we'll go ahead next. And then what we want to do is you can see at the top it says move the throttle from minimum to max, then leave it in the center. So what I have done is I'll twist my throttle all the way. You'll see the bar goes about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way, a little bit more than that. Then I'll bring it back. I like my mid to be right at 2 volts, and while I'm holding it, I'll hit apply and write, just like that. And it looks like it didn't change my center to 2.0, which is a preference. I prefer to have the first, 3/4 of the throttle squishy, and then the last bit to hit hard. So once we got the apply right, you see it obviously down at the bottom. It'll show a little blue bar. We're gonna hit next. And then control type, we'll leave at current. Use filter, we'll leave that on. Safe start, we'll leave that on. And next. Cool deal. All right, guys, so now we're ready to set up our current, our motor current, our battery current, our field weakening, and all that sort. So what we're going to do is go scroll back at the top. We're going to go to motor config. Now again, we have these 2 bars here at the top. There is a lot in here, and it gets kind of scary, but basically what we want to do is look at general, FOC, and additional info if we need it. Now this additional info and then setup, this will bring you back to what we did for the motor configuration. So we got our pole pairs, gear ratio, wheel diameter, battery type, all that stuff we did at the beginning. So if you ever need to change that, like say wheel diameter, if you change your tire size, you can change that right here. Of course, always hitting right after you change something. But what we're going to worry about right now is general. So we're going to take the top bar, general, and then the first one, we're going to go down to voltage. Now this one, we want, so general voltage, this is going to be our battery cutoff. So wherever we want our power to start cutting back, once we start getting to a low state of charge, I prefer mine to be around 64 volts. So once you hit 64 volts, you'll notice a dramatic decrease in power. So basically it'll keep it from pulling too much, and you'll kind of be able to limp home. And then our battery voltage cutoff ends. I'll put mine down at 59. You guys figure it out for whatever your battery is. You can leave it at 68 and 60. And then we'll go ahead and hit right. And then we'll change voltage down to RPM. Yours will probably say something like 150,000. Sorry. RPM. Yours guys will say something around 150,000. Your max ERPM is going to be 1 revolution times how many pole pairs. So let's say this motor is good for 6,300 RPM times 4. You're going to be at around 2,800 RPM. Sorry, my math isn't good right now. But what I'm going to be doing is limiting my max ERPM to 28,000. As well as my max reverse, so you guys can copy that as well. My ERPM limit start, so at 95% of that 28,000 is when the limit will start. So it'll start a little bit earlier than the actual 28,000. So we'll go ahead and leave it like that, hit right, and then we go change RPM to wattage. You don't have to. I kind of messing around with it. I was playing with it, and mine was spiking well past, what was it, like 13,000 watts. So I limited mine to 12. You guys can limit yours all the way down to 10,000, totally up to you. You can leave it as is. So we'll go ahead and temperature. We have already changed to KTY 83, but this will also allow you to change your temperature cutoff for your motor. Of course, if you have the temp sensor set up on your BombMoto, I have mine set to 120C and my cutoff end at 130C. So same thing as the low voltage. Basically, once your motor temperature gets up to 120 Celsius, it's going to cut back power dramatically. That way you can't overheat it, over rev it, all that good stuff. Not over rev it, but overheat it. It'll cut down power, so you can't hurt it. And then cut off end, if you do keep on it and it gets up to 130C, it'll shut the bike down completely. So that's how I have mine set. Again, hit right, go up to temperature. BMS we won't need unless you have it set up to CAN bus. And then we'll go to advanced. This is where we were earlier to change our maximum input voltage. You can change your maximum duty cycle, stuff that I don't really play with. Again, I still have a lot to learn on Vesc. That's why this is going to be a basic setup. All right, so next we want to go to our general and then current. So our current max, this is going to be our motor current, aka our phase current. So for the B1, we're going to change this to 240, swipe back, and then go to something else, and then it'll go 240. Our motor max brake, I do not personally like regen, but I think 117 might be way too much. So play it safe at 10 amps. Go ahead and go to our absolute maximum current. Now, sometimes under heavy load, your phase current will spike past what you have it set at, and this is going to make sure our controller doesn't shut off during that huge spike. So we're going to set that to 420 amps. Slow ABS current will leave. We'll leave all this stuff, go down to our battery current max. So we're going to change our battery current max. For the BombMoto, you want to keep this around 5 kilowatts to leave it within warranty. So we're going to set that to 70 amps, just like so. And then from there, we can hit right. Perfect. And then let's see, yep, from here we got our voltage, RPM, wattage, temperature, BMS, and advanced. So we're all done with our first general. Next, we're going to change our first general to FOC. And then we're at general. Now this is going to give you like your motor resistance, motor inductance, all the stuff that your motor configuration figured out for you. Flux linkage. Again, this is stuff that I really am not very good at. I have no idea what most of it means. Fortunately, it sets it up for you, and so far from my experience, the motor configuration has been great. It does all the work for you. So we're going to get out of general. We're not going to worry about sensorless Hall sensors. It already figured out the Hall sensors. Encoder, obviously we're a Hall, not encoder. HFI, VSS, it's all stuff that does pertain to us, but again, something a little bit more advanced that I would have to figure out and make another video on. We're going to go to filters. If your enable phase filters is on, go ahead and turn that off. Go ahead and hit right. And then we'll go ahead and change filters. Offsets, we won't worry about that. That's all like PID stuff. Current offsets. You got voltage offsets, stuff like that. Next, we're going to go to field weakening. Now, I'll go ahead and show you real quick. If we do 0 field weakening like that, sometimes it helps to hit help. Go ahead and hit right. And then I'll show you, we'll go to our RT data, and here you can see our miles per hour. I'm gonna go ahead and give it throttle. Okay, see how we're only hitting 40 miles per hour. So let's go back to motor config and change our field weakening to 80. And hit right. There we go. And then we'll go back to our RT data, and we'll watch that mile per hour again. As you can see, we're getting a ton more speed. So we'll go back to our motor configuration. So I'm going to leave mine at 80 amps. If you guys don't want to push it too hard, you can put it at 40, 60, totally up to you. And then next is our field weakening duty start. Oof. Now, as far as I understand, this is when the actual field weakening does start. I'll leave mine at 85%. That way it'll start more towards the end. Because as far as I know, field weakening is going to basically cut back your torque in order for you to get more speed, which we do not want. We want as much bottom end to mid end as we can get. So 85% seems good to me. Again, the rest is going to be more advanced settings, so we're not going to worry about that. So again, 80, 85, hit right. Then we'll change field weakening to advanced. Again, this is more advanced stuff, but of course I just want to show it off to you guys. So this is their speed tracker, KI, KP, down ramp. Again, more advanced stuff. And then we have our observer type. Now, from what I understand, these could change the way your motor reacts. So if you need to play with different combinations, obviously don't go crazy. Ride it. If it rides smooth, keep it where it's at. But from my experience with the BombMoto motor, we have FOC CC decoupling disabled. And then our observer type, we have FOC observer MX Lemming Lambda comp. That bottom one right there, and it seems to work perfect. And then next up we have our MTPA algorithm mode. Now this is where I started seeing very large spikes in our battery current and our wattage. So if you leave this disabled and you have this set at 70 amps, it's going to hold a pretty stable 70 amps. Now if you change it to IQ measured, I believe, yep, IQ measured, you're going to see some pretty crazy spikes. The torque is going to hold a lot stronger. The motor is going to get a lot harder. I mean, this setting right here will either blow your motor up or it'll be a ripper. So for now, let's leave that to disabled until we can figure it out and get a more advanced video going. Of course, if you guys want to check out somebody a little bit more knowledgeable, go ahead and check out eForce. A lot of this credit goes to him. He's the one who showed me how to set all this stuff up. Now, he does already have some Vesc videos up, so of course I will leave a link to his channel down in the description below. Shout out to Jordan at eForce. Always super helpful to everybody in the community. So yeah, guys, I think that's about it. We've gone through everything for the motor configuration. Real quick, just hit right just in case. Next up, we'll go to our app configuration, and then we want to change general to ADC. Now this is where we're going to get our throttle mapping, our throttle feel, and we change ADC up top, and then right here we have general, mapping, and throttle curve. Now general, you got your safe start, you know, stuff we saw at the beginning of our I think our setup input. We won't mess with none of this stuff. What we want to do is go to mapping. Now at the top we have our input deadband. This is going to basically take that slack out of the beginning of the throttle. So as you can see, I have quite a bit of slack. I don't know if you guys picked that up on the camera. Default it's set at 15%. So you got quite a bit of slack right there. Let's go down to about 8% and hit right. Now you can see we got rid of quite a bit of that slack. It's like adjusting the cable on your gas bike to make it nice and tight. ADC voltage start. Now if we go too low, you'll see it'll start to creep. Let's bring it down a little bit more. And you can bring your deadband down just a touch more. Keep bringing the deadband down. Bring the start voltage down to 70. Now you can see we hit a block, so we're actually reading voltage when we are in the closed position. Or best way to describe it is our throttle is not twisted at all, but it is reading voltage, so it's not safe. And I believe that is where the safe start comes in. That way, if you turn your controller on and it is reading throttle voltage, it can't just take off on you, which is very important. We don't need our bikes going through the garage door or going through our neighbor's fence. So you want to mess around with your input deadband, and I wouldn't really mess around with your start voltage too much. Just your input deadband. Get rid of that slack. That way it's nice and touchy. All right, and then we got our ADC end voltage. Obviously our setup input already took care of these, and then our ADC 1 center voltage. So I prefer mine to be at 2 volts. Like I said, it makes it a little bit more squishy. It doesn't hit as hard for, basically 3/4 of the throttle. And then that last 1/4 of the throttle is just nuts, pulls hard. So I'm going to go ahead and set mine up just like that. And then this is where you can set up your ADC2 if you're doing like a thumb throttle regen, stuff like that. I won't be doing that, but of course, I think eForce will be having a video up about that very soon, as well as products that they can sell you guys. So make sure you guys check them out for a little bit more detail into this. All right, next up, we'll change mapping to throttle curve. Now, your throttle expo, you got your little help button right here, and it'll tell you your exponential gain for the throttle. 0 is linear, negative, throttle is softer, close to 0, and increases exponentially. So it'll start off soft, and then it'll ramp in quick. Or if you change it positive, the throttle reacts fast around 0, and then decreases exponentially towards full throttle. So basically you'll get a really hard hit, and then it'll kind of mellow out as you're getting closer to the full throttle. And of course you can change this up and down. I like to keep mine around 5%. Throttle expo brake, that'll be for your brake, of course, if you have a brake set up. Then we have our throttle expo mode. So you can mess around with these: natural, we got polynomial, and exponential. And of course, it's got some math equations right here in the help. Basically, it seems to me like it's explaining this a little bit, the throttle expo. I like to keep mine at polynomial. Of course, you guys can play around with yours in natural or exponential. Now, I'm not too sure if you need to be on exponential for this throttle expo at the top to make a huge difference. I keep mine at polynomial, and I can tell a difference between my throttle expo when I do change it. So it's possible, it doesn't matter which mode you're in, it's going to work regardless. But yeah, guys, that's basically it. I mean, all this other stuff, you got packages, terminal, firmware, BMS, profiles. A lot of this stuff you won't use. You should be in the correct firmware version with your V2 Flipsky. Your profiles, again, this will be something we'll go over a little bit later, where you can actually set up different modes, I guess you could say. Have one for the kid, one for the woman, one for yourself, stuff like that. And then, of course, we have our RT data page that we looked at earlier. This one, if you have a phone mount, hook it up. Obviously, you got your speed. You got your current right here, which is motor current, and then your power, which is your battery current. We had a plane flying overhead. And then, of course, we have our battery, our mileage, range, and percentage. And then we have our temp of the controller, our consumption, our temp, our motor temp down there. And then you can scroll up and down as well, give you a little bit more data. So we have this one right here. Top, we have our current, our duty percentage, ERPM. Again, this is pole pairs times, RPM times pole pairs, which in our case is times 4. So when you see that 26 times 1,000, so you got 26,000, divide that by 4 is what you're getting in single rotations. Power and wattage right here. Then of course we have our battery voltage, our amps, so you can see how many amps your battery is pulling, your MOSFET temperature of the controller, motor temperature, amps drawn. I believe it's more like an odometer, so it tells you the life of the controller and battery combo. Amp hour drawn, amp hour charge. So it tells you that the motor with the regen, I guess, whatever you want to call it, is 0.3 milliamp per hour. all sorts of stuff. Down there shows you the fault code if you have a fault code pop up. That way, if you're having any issues, you can screen record this and check what kind of fault code you're popping up. Scroll down here. We have some live data that you can collect. I'm not too sure if you could do it through the mobile app. I believe it's only through the PC app. And we scroll down here. Since start, we got our trip. So all sorts of cool stuff. As you can see, I put in quite a bit on this thing already. Max speed 57 miles per hour. That's unloaded, of course. But yeah, so I think that's about it, guys. Let me know if this helped you guys out. Of course, there's still quite a bit in here, but if you follow this basic guide, you should be able to get your BombMoto set up, ready to rip. And yeah, so I mean, if you guys have any input, leave it down in the comments. I'm sure there's a bunch of you that know a whole lot more than me. And of course, let's keep this knowledge base, no guessing. If you guys actually know and you've done your research, please feel free to help out. But if you guys are guessing, I've done a lot of far driver stuff where people kind of just throw in comments guessing things and they're completely wrong. Let's try to leave that and actually provide and help out other people in the comments, other viewers. But yeah, guys, I think that's going to do it for this. I'm going to go ahead and throw my chain on. Next up video, we're going to throw on a 12 tooth. So we're going to see the difference between this 11 tooth and the 12 tooth and see what kind of top speeds we can get out of this setup with our B1 motor and our Flipsky. Again, if you guys need a mount for your Flipsky 75-200, hit me up and I'll get you taken care of. All right, guys. Yeah, I hope this helped you. And if it did, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Later, guys.